The wind over the Apache plains sang with a hollow grief that morning. Dust rose from the dry earth like the breath of forgotten souls, curling between the broken rocks and dying cacti. A wagon creaked along the dirt road, its wheels squealing against the sun-baked ground. Inside sat 3 women, silent, thin, and haunted. Their wrists bore faint bruises, and their eyes held the faraway look of people who had seen too much and survived by forgetting how to feel. The man driving the wagon was named Eli Navarro, a rancher known across Cochise County as a man who kept to himself. People called him the Quiet One, part Mexican, part Apache, all heart, though few ever saw that part. He'd found the women 2 days earlier, wandering near the ruins of an old mining camp. Someone had used them, abandoned them, and left them to die in the desert. Eli hadn't planned to find anyone that day. He was on his way back from Tombstone with a sack of salt, a coil of rope, and a letter from his brother who had died in a northern prison camp years ago. But fate has a way of putting the broken in front of those strong enough to carry them. When Eli had first seen them ragged, half-starved, he thought they were ghosts. The eldest of the 3, Mina, had stepped forward with trembling hands raised. She didn't speak English well, only a few words. "Please, water," she whispered. Her voice was like cracked glass. Eli had given them water, then food, then a blanket. He didn't ask where they came from. Some wounds don't need questions. Now, as the wagon approached his ranch, the women looked out over the stretch of land. It wasn't much, just a long fence line, a weathered barn, and a cabin set against the hills, but to them, it looked like salvation. When Eli stopped the wagon, he turned to them. "You'll be safe here," he said softly. "You can rest. No one'll bother you." The women exchanged uncertain glances. In their world, men didn't offer kindness without a price. Mina's eyes filled with wary confusion. What you want?" she asked. Eli looked down, then met her gaze. "Nothin'," he said simply. "You ain't owed to no one. You just need time." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Mina nodded slowly, as if she didn't understand but wanted to believe. That night, the wind howled across the plains. The women slept inside Eli's cabin while he stayed out in the barn, tending the horses. He couldn't shake the sound of their silence, the kind that sits between sobs. At dawn, when he entered the cabin with coffee, the youngest one, Suki, flinched so hard she dropped the cup she was holding. It shattered against the floor, and she fell to her knees, trembling. I clean. Please don't." Eli froze. His voice came out like the rumble of distant thunder, low and steady. "Ain't nobody hurting you here. You hear me?" Suki didn't lift her head. Mina stepped forward, her hand shaking as she reached for the broken pieces. She think you like other men," Mina said softly. Eli crouched down, picked up the shards himself, and dropped them into a tin bucket. "You ain't servants. You're guests. You'll eat when you're hungry, rest when you're tired. That's all." Mina stared at him. "Why?" Eli paused. "Because someone once showed me mercy when I didn't deserve it." Days passed. The women began to heal slowly, carefully, like flowers opening after a long frost. Eli built a fire each evening, cooked beans and cornbread, and said little. He never asked about their past. Instead, he taught them small things: how to mend a fence, milk a cow, ride a gentle horse. At first, they thought it was a trick. Mina kept her guard up, whispering to the others in their language. Suki stayed in the corner at night, clutching a blanket like armor. The third woman, Aya, spoke even less, her eyes always on the horizon. Then one evening, the truth of Eli's gentleness broke them. It was a Sunday, and the air smelled of rain. Mina had burned her hand on the stove trying to cook. Eli took her hand without a word, poured cool water over it, and wrapped it in a strip of clean cloth. His touch was careful, distant, not the rough command of a man, but the quiet strength of a brother. When he finished, Mina looked up. Her lip trembled. "You not touch," she whispered. Eli frowned. "Why would I?" Her eyes filled with tears. "Men always touch you not. Why?" He looked at her for a long time before answering. "Because you've been touched enough." Something inside her broke, not with pain, but release. She covered her face and sobbed, the sound raw and ancient. Suki ran to her, clutching her shoulders. Aya turned away, trembling. Eli stood there, unsure whether to move or stay still. Finally, he stepped outside. giving them space to weep beneath his roof for the first time. That night, lightning danced across the desert sky. The rain came hard, washing the dust from the land, washing something else from their hearts. When morning came, Mina stepped out onto the porch. The air was cool, clean. Eli was already at the corral, mending a fence post. She watched him for a moment, then said quietly, "You, good man." He didn't look up. "Just trying to be," he said. She smiled faintly, her first real smile in months. But peace never lasts long on the frontier. 2 riders appeared at the ridge that afternoon, men from the old mining camp, rough-looking and mean-eyed. Eli saw them before they saw the women. He told Mina and the others to stay inside. When the men rode up, dust swirling around their horses, one spat and said, "We're looking for what's ours." Eli's hand rested on the butt of his revolver. "Ain't nothing here belongs to you." The taller man sneered. "Those girls, they were ours for keepin'. You hand 'em over, and maybe we'll let you live to tell the tale." Eli's eyes turned hard as stone. "They're free. You try to change that, and I'll put you in the ground." A long silence hung between them. The desert wind held its breath. Then the men laughed, ugly and sharp. "You got a hero's mouth, rancher. Let's see how long that lasts." They turned their horses and rode off, but not far. Eli knew they'd be back. As the sun set, Mina came to him, her face pale. "They come again?" she asked. "Maybe," Eli said, "but I won't let him take you." She looked at him with fear and something deeper, trust. "Why you help us?" He sighed. "Because I've been lost before, and someone once found me." Mina touched her bandaged hand and whispered, "Then maybe we can be found too." That night, as the desert grew still, Eli sat by the fire, checking his rifle. The women sat nearby, silent but calm. The fear that had ruled them was beginning to give way to hope, to courage, to the idea that not all men were monsters. Mina watched him from across the room, her eyes soft. "You know, Angel," she said, her accent thick but sure, "but maybe God send you." Eli smiled faintly. "God's got better folks for that job. I'm just a man." She shook her head. "Man who don't touch, man who give peace. That may be better." The fire crackled. Outside, thunder rolled again in the distance, and though none of them said it out loud, they all knew this fragile peace wouldn't last forever. The past always comes riding back. But for tonight, they were safe, and sometimes that was enough. The desert woke in silence. The wind had gone still, the air too heavy, as if the land itself was waiting. Eli Navarro stood outside his cabin before sunrise, the cold metal of his rifle pressing against his palm. Somewhere out there, the men from the old mining camp were watching. He could feel it. Behind him, inside the cabin, the 3 women stirred quietly. Mina rose first, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. She looked at Eli through the window and whispered to the others, "He not sleep." Suki hugged her knees, fear still thick in her chest. "They come back?" Mina nodded slowly. "Yes, but he ready." Aya, the silent one, finally spoke. "Then we must be ready too." The 3 women stood together, small against the vastness of the desert. Morning, but their eyes carried something new. They were done being victims. By mid-morning, a dust cloud appeared on the horizon. 2 riders again, but this time, they weren't alone, for more followed behind. The same cruel laughter carried across the plain, faint but sharp. Eli squinted toward them, jaw set tight. He turned to Mina, who was standing near the cabin door. "Get inside. Lock the door." But Mina didn't move. "We hide too long," she said softly. "If we run forever, they always come." Eli looked at her, saw the defiance in her eyes, and something in him softened. "You're brave," he said, "but brave don't mean foolish." Mina shook her head. "Brave mean tired of fear." He sighed. "Then stay behind me." The riders came fast, their horses kicking up dust like a storm. When they stopped, their leader, a thick, scarred man named Cutter, spat into the dirt. "You deaf, rancher?" I said they're ours. Eli's rifle never wavered. "Not anymore." Cutter sneered. "You think you can play hero? We'll burn this place to the ground." Eli's voice was calm. "Then you'll burn with it." For a moment, no one moved. Then Cutter laughed a deep, hateful sound and drew his gun. The shot rang out like thunder. Eli ducked behind a post and fired back. The air filled with gunfire and dust. Horses screamed. Splinters flew from the fence rails. The women inside the cabin dropped to the floor, clutching each other. Mina's heart pounded, but she refused to cower. She looked at the old hunting rifle Eli had kept by the door. Her hands trembled, but she grabbed it anyway. "Mina, no," Suki cried. She looked back. "He save us. We save him." Then she threw open the door and stepped into the storm. Eli saw her through the smoke and dust, the rifle in her hands. "Get back inside," he shouted. But she didn't. She steadied the weapon the way he'd shown her once, elbows locked, eyes narrow, and fired. The shot cracked through the air and caught one of the men in the shoulder. He fell from his horse with a cry. Eli couldn't believe it. Fear surged in his chest, not for himself, but for her. "Mina." She reloaded, shaking, but before she could fire again, Cutter's voice roared, "You'll pay for that." He spurred his horse toward her, gun raised. Eli didn't think. He moved like lightning, diving into the open. His rifle barked once, then twice. Cutter's horse screamed, stumbled, and went down. The outlaw hit the ground hard, his gun skittering into the dirt. Silence fell. Dust drifted in the air. The smell of gunpowder mixed with blood. Eli walked forward, rifle steady, until he stood over Cutter. "It's over." Cutter looked up, face twisted in hate. "You can't save them. They're broken." Eli's eyes burned like fire. "They ain't broken, just forgotten." He turned, looked toward the cabin, toward Mina, Suki, and Aya standing together in the doorway. Not anymore. By noon, it was done. The other men had fled into the desert, leaving their leader behind. Eli buried the body at the edge of the ridge, said no prayer, and covered the grave with rocks. When he came back to the cabin, Mina was waiting. Her hands were still shaking. "You kill for us?" she asked quietly. Eli nodded once. "I did what I had to." She looked away. "I no want death. I want life." "You got it now," he said. "All of you do." Suki stepped forward, eyes bright with tears. "We stay." Eli looked out at the horizon, then back at them. "You can stay as long as you need, but you don't belong to this place or to me. You're free to go wherever you want." For the first time, Aya smiled faintly. "Free," she whispered. The word tasted strange but beautiful on her tongue. Weeks passed. The land healed slowly, and so did they. Mina helped plant a small garden near the cabin. Suki tended the horses. Aya started, singing softly at night, songs Eli didn't understand but liked to hear. One evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, Mina joined Eli by the corral. "You never ask our story," she said. "I didn't need to," he answered. "But I want to tell," she insisted. "We from far place. Taken, sold, hurt. Every night, I think no tomorrow. But you, when you no touch, when you only give food, fire, kindness, I break down. Not from pain, from remembering I human." Eli turned to her, eyes soft. "That's all you ever were." She smiled sadly. "Now I believe." They stood in silence, the desert wind brushing past. A month later, a wagon came from town. The sheriff had heard about the shootout and came to speak with Eli. After hearing the story, he nodded. "You did right, Navarro. World needs more men like you." Eli just said, "World needs more peace." When the sheriff left, Mina came to Eli with a small piece of paper, her handwriting clumsy but careful. "Letter," she said. "For you." He opened it. The words were simple. "We go to Newtown. Start sewing shop. Thank you for mercy. You teach us we are not shame. We remember you always." Eli looked up, heart tight. Mina was standing by the wagon, Suki and Aya beside her. The horses were ready. He walked over. "You sure you don't want to stay?" Mina shook her head. "We stay too long. We forget how to live." He smiled faintly. "Then go live, Mina." She reached out, took his rough hand in both of hers, and whispered, "You fix us without touching." Then she climbed onto the wagon. The wheels creaked, and the sound faded into the horizon. Eli stood there until they disappeared into the sun. That night, the ranch felt quiet but not empty. Eli sat on the porch, staring at the stars. Somewhere out there, 3 women who had once been broken were building new lives. He whispered a small prayer, not for himself, but for them. May they never forget they were more than what was done to them. The wind stirred, soft and kind, carrying that prayer across the plains. And for the first time in a long time, Eli smiled.